America is in the midst of an historic surge in legalized gambling.
And that's a cover. And that's $10,500.
This is the worst thing that people are now doing with their time and money today. It's not losing it to inflation. It's not playing video games. It's being a slack-jawed gambling degenerate. We are in the midst of an historic surge in legalized gambling, and the devastation on gamblers, especially young men, is a lot worse than you think. I've also got a giant, ominous warning for you that seasoned gamblers don't even know about when I bring in my CPA for just a minute here today on the seriously punishing tax implications that should scare anybody out of gambling. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, best-selling author, and longtime real estate investor. Almost 60% of 18 to 24-year-olds have placed at least one sports bet now. That's per the NCAA, and that has surged so fast. I mean, just less than a decade ago, major pro sports leagues shunned gambling, disassociating with it because it was illegal in most places. The big turning point was 2018. That's when the Supreme Court ended a decades-long ban on commercialized sports betting. 38 states in D.C. have now legalized it, most with minimum age requirements set at 21. And the two biggest platforms are DraftKings and FanDuel. They've got about 70% of the market. But look, you can do this if you're under 21 on platforms like Prize Picks and Fliff. They offer betting-like experiences. They operate under fantasy sports or sweepstakes. And having these apps on your phone, that just brings the gambling right to you. It keeps it in your face and addictive. Now it's like you're sitting in a casino when you're on your living room sofa or in your bed or even in the bathroom. There is no escape. 2/3 of Americans live in a state where they can access it on their phones. And look how young some of these gamblers are, what they have to say, and then who's showing up in these Gamblers Anonymous meetings.
In today's world, it's the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, 19, 21-year-olds that get addicted. Years ago, before online casinos, if we had a person coming in under 24 years old, it was rare, all right? Now the norm, the real norm, it's kids coming in at 17 years old. That's the norm.
Well, one big reason why it's such a problem is, look, you can't hide it so that therefore others can't tell if you're gambling because you're not, shooting it into your veins, or you're not acting drunk, or you're not smoking anything. See, you can gamble without exhibiting a physical change, so therefore others don't know that you need help. And it is all over the place. I mean, gambling ads air on TV over 60,000 times a year. Celebrities endorse gambling. I mean, some teams put gambling ads right on the field. Brick and mortar sports books are even built inside some stadiums now. Caesars and BetMGM, there are two other big platforms that you might see out there. But I mean, in their commercials, they can put that 1-800-GAMBLER help number on screen and tell you things like gamble within your limits. But look, here's the thing. These platforms, they're not going to cut you off if you continue to lose and they profit. In fact, if you win disproportionately big time after time, and these platforms can kind of tell that you're too smart, you know what they do? Like a casino that identifies a card shark in Vegas, they're either going to curtail your activity or just totally cut you off. All right, so then by definition, if you have an account in good standing at FanDuel or DraftKings and you bet a lot and they keep letting you play, well then you have just signaled to the entire world that you don't know what you're doing and you are going to lose big, or you already have. I mean, that is baked into the cake. That's how the system works. So therefore, these companies are basically mining America to find anyone stupid enough to keep placing these sports bets. Companies are profiting from this, and then states are too. I mean, they've collected billions in tax revenue, and FanDuel and DraftKings, see, they're publicly traded companies. So this means that they have shareholders, and those shareholders, they want to see profit and growth. I recently asked decorated CPA and mega popular tax author Tom Wheelwright about tax rates on gambling for just a quick 3 minutes here. I mean, you won't believe how punishing this is. Can you tell us about sports gambling taxes and how it's treated?
So remember, all income is taxable. So that includes gambling winnings. They are taxable. In fact, you'll get a 1099, just like you would if you rendered services, you'd get a 1099, right? Or you have interest income, you get a 1099. You get 1099 from gambling. What you actually have to show is that you actually have gambling losses. So you have to track those gambling losses to show the IRS that you've got gambling losses, but your gambling losses can never be more than your gambling winnings. In other words, you never get to generate a tax loss on gambling. So that means is that if you win $10,000 during the year and you can prove that you lost $8,000 during the year, you're going to be taxed on $2,000. But if you can't prove the $8,000, you're going to be taxed on $10,000.
Yeah, so you, the gambler, have the burden of tracking this, and I guess
Absolutely.
Tracking your losses. I'm not a gambler. How would one track their losses?
Oh, I would keep detailed ledger. Personally, I'd probably have a separate bank account just for gambling.
Gosh.
That's the way I would do it. I'm not a gambler either. So, by the way, it's also a good way to budget your gambling so that you don't get in trouble, right? So just set up a separate bank account, put whatever money you say, I'm comfortable with this money, I'm going to gamble with this money, put in that bank account. And then you have a ledger that shows the money that went in and the money you lost, the money you won. And don't do anything but gambling in that bank account.
And that separate account's a great way to hide it from your spouse. Not that I'm suggesting that. Well,
all right. Interesting you went there.
I'm not a gambler at all. Can't even believe I was thinking that far ahead. What are the gambling tax rates like?
They're ordinary income tax rates. So gambling winnings are just ordinary income. They're the same as your wages. They don't have Social Security taxes. Their income just like any other kind of income. Nothing special.
Okay, and this all applies to whether it's sports gambling or general gambling, like lotteries and sweepstakes?
Just remember, all income's taxable unless the government says it isn't. All income, okay? And then there's some types of income that are taxed at special rates, like capital gains. But gambling has no special rate, so it's just your ordinary income rates.
Gosh, to me, it seems like it's hard to break even with gambling over time. And then when you take the tax adjusted earnings that you get from it, over the long term, I just don't think, Harrah's and Bally's Casino is really incentivized to inform gamblers on how punitive this can be with ordinary income tax rates applied to gambling winnings.
No, but they will send you your 1099-G, I guarantee that.
So can you imagine tracking all that and then paying all that in tax? And this is even if you're on the winning side, and then keeping a separate bank account as well. And note that Tom and I were talking federal there. It gets even worse. Some state laws are punishing, like New York, which has a 51% tax rate on mobile sports wagering. Bankruptcies are up 28% since states have legalized this, and credit scores have dropped. Now, California and Texas are the two big states, and they still haven't legalized sports gambling. They're the two big ones. And when they do, that's when you'll see more bankruptcy and more people, especially young men, in financial ruin. I mean, Gamblers Anonymous meetings are filled with people hooked on betting and on stock options trading too. And, worse still, among addiction disorders, gambling has a comparatively high suicide attempt rate. And, understand that while both involve risk, investing in gambling are two different things. When you invest, you're purchasing a stake in an asset that has value in an effort to generate profit. But gambling doesn't involve taking ownership of anything with value. Instead, bettors are predicting the outcome of an event. Now, I gambled as a teen on sports, and back then it was just a friend and I. We would each lay a $20 bill on top of the television at the start of like a Mets versus Phillies baseball game, and then it sure made the game more interesting to watch. There wasn't any sort of app to make it easy, suck me in, and make it a recurrent practice. I haven't gambled since. Now that you're aware of the gravity of the problem, the best thing you can do for yourself is to delete those apps off your phone as soon as this video is done. Because look, I mean, every gambler that had their lives flipped over and turned catastrophic, at one time they told themselves, you know, I'm doing this, but it's under control. I mean, everybody once said that. The best thing you can do is delete FanDuel, DraftKings, and any other apps like that off of your phone right now and vow to never do it again. Well, instead of gambling, as long as you have some patience, you actually can 10x your wealth in just the next 10 years through real estate investing without having to be a landlord or flipper and without taking on inordinate risk. Learn how to 10x your wealth in the next 10 years in this important video right here.